Hello everybody, welcome back to Memory Gamma. Today we're going to follow on from the previous video, which was the Defiant, and we're going to build the second of the Deep Space Nine era hero ships, the station itself. Now, the station works in several different ways compared to a normal ship. So this will be both a bit of a build and a bit of a rules extra in terms of the Nor-Orbital space station. So let's start with getting the ship on. So there are actually two versions of Deep Space Nine. There is one that came out as a Dominion War special reward right at the very beginning of the game, just after Wave 0 came out. So one of the first few cars to come into the game, which is this one down here. When firing torpedoes, do not disable the torpedoes. Just nice, blanket, simple, no need to recharge your torpedoes for a disable. Works nicely. 3 crew, 3 weapon slots. The other one came out in Wave 9.5, which came with also a DS9 crew pack, which had previously been released as a DS9 and Gen Con promo pack, but that contained a version of Cisco, Quark, Odo, Bashir, Garrick, all those ones, but in their own faction. So Odo's independent, Quark was Ferengi, Garrick's Dominion, and Vic Fontaine turns up as well. My man Vic. And that's this one, which is every time you defend, during the roll defense dice, you may roll up to 2 additional defense dice, but you disable 1 active shield for each dice you roll. Now that's every time you defend, so that means you can be rolling defense dice if you want to turn your shields off. It's a giant ship. It's got agility base of 0. It's not usually sort of worth doing that, but you can make it quite defensive, and it does come with a tech slot, which you can use to boost that defense. Okay, so I think we are going to do that one. It's more well-rounded with 1 tech, 2 weapon, 3 crew. Now, the first thing we're going to do, which it doesn't bring up on here, is have a quick talk about the rules regarding Deep Space Nine. So you may notice this little maneuver dial up here and the base plate. The base plate does not look like that. Deep Space Nine is on a gigantic round base plate like this. So it has 3 secondary arcs, effectively 3 weapon arcs. They are at the 3 pylons, as you could imagine. The actual model is modelled, obviously it's Deep Space Nine, so at each pylon there is a 90-degree arc extending out from the pylon. Those are your weapon arcs. If you can fire prime weapon, but it fires 360 degrees, like a Borg ship. So you get that 5 dice at 360 arc, but at range 1 to 2, so you can't fire at range 3 on the primary. You want to fire at range 3, you have to fire from one of the arcs. Weaponry can be fired from the arcs as normal, so you can fire torpedoes from the arcs. You can fire any weapon that requires an arc can be fired only from those pylon points. Now the maneuver dial is a bit different as well. As you can see, it's got some greens, some whites, and some reds. So you position the ship with the nameplate at the base, so the name is facing you and the pylon is facing away, and that's the front of your ship. The green circle here, like zoom in ever so slightly, so the green circle here means stand still, don't do anything. The green rotates here. These are rotate actions. These are rotate movements. So these are green, means rotate 45 degrees in that particular direction. So 45 degrees to the right or left. The white ones are 90 degrees. So that's turn the ship from having the front pylon facing forwards to facing entirely sideways. 1 straight means move 1 straight forwards from the front pylon. These arrows are not rotations, they are they're opposite directions. So there are 3 pylons, as I said. So that allows you to move, the 1 straight here allows you to move 1 forward from your front pylon. That one there, the one what looks like a back right, allows you to move 1 straight forwards from the back right pylon, and so much on the left pylon, and then also 2 straight and 2 back. Now, those are different maneuvers, very much. There's a couple of other rules. So the oversized space station and also the oversized Borg cube, but I'll do a separate video on that. But the Nor class orbital space station may only ever move by a dial-based move. It cannot be given additional maneuvers from card effects. It can't be affected. It can't be forced to move if you don't want it. It's a space station. So, you know, it's good. It can't be forced to move, and obviously it's got the ability to stand still, which is the, you know, it can just go, you know what, I don't fancy moving. Given the fact that it's a space station, that's quite a good idea. Now, of course, it can move with the 1 and the 2 straights. They can still be affected by card effects. So, for example, you could have that 2 straight be turned into a green if you gave this a plasma coil overdrive. And you could technically use Chemosite to increase the speed of that maneuver. You just can't do any, you can't have an additional maneuver. So Admiral Forrest, for example, action performer 1 straight, 1 bank or 1 hard turn. DS9 cannot benefit from that. It may not do any of those movements. Even though the 1 straight is on its mover dial, it may not move like that. It can have its base maneuver upgraded, but it can't have additional maneuvers. Other couple things you may notice, there's no evade on the action bar. Yeah, you're the space station, you don't get to evade. The space station also may not have evade tokens. Under no circumstances may you place an evade token beside that ship. You cannot target it with any ability that would give it an evade token. So, you know, if you have T on board, for example, then you place battle stations token and you trade it out for a scan. You would not get scan evade. Evade cannot be placed here. You can't, if the Intrepid goes, I want to give you a scan evade, it just gets the scan token, doesn't get the evade token. And also, its base agility may not be modified. It can still roll additional defense dice, i.e. with its named ability, or with Hikaru Sulu, or anybody else. So it can roll up to 3 defense dice, the rule of 3, but it cannot have its agility modified. So yeah, that's the sort of like the thing. Now, obviously, there are ways you can roll additional defense dice. You can make this thing quite defensive, you know, giving you defensive rerolls, cancellations while you've got shields, and you do have 8 of them. And of course, you can still upgrade the thing. So obviously, the rule of 3 kicks in. This thing could be 11 hull, 11 shields if you want to throw +3 to each of them on board. So there's definitely potential. So we're going to have a build, and we're going to have a look. Now, obviously, in the Defiant, we used some of the characters. I'm going to try and not, I think I said that, as I said in the video, I'm not going to try and ignore the characters I used in the Defiant and then just do DS9 with what's left, because it's not actually possible in terms, because we haven't got any captains, apart from possibly Worf. But what we are going to do is try and use different versions. So obviously I used Crew Kira and Crew Ezri and Crew Garrick last time. So I will try and use different versions, if there are, of those people here. Also, last one, I had Captain Jadzia and Crew Ezri, which obviously is a bit breaking the timeline, given the fact that you can't have both of them on the battle, so you can't have both of them at the same time. But they are differently named characters, even though they are both actually Dax. One is Jadzia, one is Ezri, so you can have them both on the same ship, and that doesn't count as breaking uniqueness. Maybe they should both be Dax and have a line that says, you know, you cannot have, you know, may not be played if you have Jadzia, and Jadzia should have the same, may not be played if you have Ezri. I don't know, but that's what you can do. You know, you're able to do that. So we're going to go captain. Now, obviously, first one we look at is obviously Benjamin Sisko. Now, we've got this one. Every time you suffer damage to your hull, you can make a counterattack. If you get a battle station result, you get a battle stations token. It's nice, but it requires you taking hull damage. Now, if you're taking hull damage on the station, you're already pretty much gone, because your shields are all gone. Most of your defensive tricks are gone. So we want to prefer maybe something different. Now, this Sisko is very offensive. Add a crit whenever you fire at a Dominion ship or a Dominion captain. And in the end phase, not phase, you get to remove an Orcs power token, which is nice. Just a flat Orcs power token removal in the end phase. This is the Sisko that came with this card. During the roll defense dice step, if you're in the forward firing arc of at least 2 more ships, given the fact that they're a huge base, you probably are, you get a bonus defense dice against all those attacks. And every time you suffer a damage card, you get a +1 captain skill, which remains even if the damage is repaired. Now again, requires you taking hull damage, but it leans into the ability of the ship, giving you bonus defense dice when you're being shot at by multiple people. So we put that Cisco on board. So now we've got, technically we could roll +3 defenses against every attack. We'd roll 1 for Cisco, so if there's 2 ships in arc that have us in their forward firing arcs, we get 3 defenses against each one of them. 2 from the ship ability if you want, and 1 from Cisco. Now that's not going to do an amazingly lot, because you would have to disable 4 of your shields. But it is only disabling shields, and disabling shields do obviously come back. So we are possibly looking at something that allowing us to repair shields, so we can keep using that. We might want to look at something that cancels damage or absorbs damage to make sure we can stay alive for longer. Now, construction upgrade. There's only one that's valid, and I think it's perfectly valid. Dominion or Retrofit. Gives us an extra shield and an extra slot for 3 points. Doesn't do anything else, but again, doesn't need to. So, I mean, because it's Deep Space Nine, it's not a Nor-class orbital space station, it doesn't count for Federation prototype. You could do a Ablative Generator, but it requires you to disable all your remaining shields. And you can't prime weapon attacks. And it just absorbs 5 damage. It's not amazing, but there is some stuff you could do with that. So, we're going to go to, let's look at some crew. So, who have we used? So we used Ezri, Garrick and Kira last time, so let's look at a Worf. Let's look at crew Worf. Okay, we could use defensive Worf. Defensive Worf is very good idea, especially for a defensive build. You disable him, the attacking ship rolls 1 less attack dice, can't spend battle stations or target locks to modify the dice, and you get to roll your full dice in spite of their scan tokens. The ultimate subset of defensive, and leans into the defensive vibe of the ship. So you're getting shot at multiple times. The shot you really don't want to get hit by is the one you trigger Worf on. So we could do that. The other one allows you to make a ship roll 2 less dice at range 1, possibly disabling for re-rolling. Only problem with this one is you have to keep results of second roll. So you re-roll the entire thing, you mulligan the whole roll. But of course, if it's equally bad, you can't up-convert at that point. So it's very much chancing your arm. And the final one, check power strain. You can place an Orcs power token to reroll up to 2 blanks, stacking or defending. And then if you did a straight maneuver, you can remove an Orcs power token. Now that's not bad, because of course that would require we can do a 1 straight, but it would only trigger on the 1 straight, since it's the one that matches that. Even though those 2 are straight maneuvers, they're not that maneuver which Worf indicates. So I think if we go defensive Worf, now he disables himself, we want to bring him back. Herald Dr. Julian Bashir. Now Julian Bashir removes a disabled token from a target crew upgrade at the start of activation phase. You re-enable him for free every single round, so you can use him every round. Instant fine. Who else have we got? We could use, who else have we got? We've got O'Brien. How am I missing O'Brien? So there's lots of O'Briens. So we can disable to repair 2 shields. Nice, but you can't attack this round. So it's an action disable for 2 shield repair, but no attack. Now, I suppose that's alright if you know you're not going to get attacked. Problem is, you're a space station. As soon as people are in range, you're probably getting shot at least once a turn, and you really can't afford to have your attack stopped. So, The next Miles O'Brien allows you to damage the enemy hull. Again, it's a potential, but it's a discard to just do 1 damage to a target ship's hull, and you have to have no shields, and they have to have no shields. It's an awful lot to happen, but it can be the thing that finishes a ship. Now we could do planning phase disable, remove a disable token from weapon or a tech. So we could do that and allow us to keep our weapons and tech going. That's a possibility. That's very much a possibility. Could do that. and then we just need a disable weapon or tech, something that we could disable in the tech. We could disable to cancel or re-roll something, and then we can re-enable it with Miles. But then, of course, Bashir goes, well, I can only re-enable one of them. So that's potential. Gives us options, because obviously if we're not defending for a round, or you know you're not going to have to defend again next round, you know, you can re-enable O'Brien instead and get that bonus back. Or you can re-enable Worf. However, I know we're going into independent, but we have Odo. Now, Odo is very much a main part of Deep Space Nine. René Auberjonois is doing his absolute amazing job there. So during the planning phase, you can target a ship within range 1 to 3 and choose a crew upgrade on that ship, and then he becomes a copy of it. So it's useful for copying somebody else's crew upgrade. Or, and then he becomes that crew. If that action or ability requires it to be disabled or discarded, you do the same to Odo. So that's him copying someone else. So that would be cool if he could, for example, you put Julian Bashir on a different ship. Odo copies Julian Bashir, and then he is his own Julian Bashir, and then you could have both Julians target the same ship and re-enable 2 crew. Is a little combination you can do. I have also seen him copy Nyota Uhura from the Kelvin verse, which allows you to increase the range of an upgrade by 1. So he copies, they use theirs, and you increase the range of an ability from range 1 to range 1 to 3 by targeting both Uhuras on the same upgrade. That's pretty scary. The other Odo is target a ship at range 1 to 3, even if they're cloaked or have shields. Disable Odo and disable one of their crew, or one upgrade, sorry. If you disable a crew upgrade, you can then use that crew upgrade's action, if it's got one, as a free action this round. Now, that is really nice. He is reaching across and going, I disable anything I like on your ship. One upgrade. Weapon, crew, tech, question mark, an upgrade. To turn off their T, turn off their multi-adaptive shielding, turn off their reinforced hull, losing 2 points of hull instantly. If you pick a crew upgrade, however, like, you know, commander or science officer or Nanklus or anyone like that, anyone with an action, not only do you disable them, you also get to use their action as a free action, which suddenly nullifies them, stops them doing it for an entire round. You reach across the Romulan ship and go, I choose Nanklus. Disable their Nanklus. Okay, now they can't use it this round unless they've got 2 actions. And then you use Nanklus on them. And then you literally use their own card against them. He is very, very nice. And I think we might actually go with that one. I know it's a lot of disabled crew, but we have a way around that. Because there is computer analysis. During the planning phase, discard this card and remove all disabled tokens from all upgrades. Just a factory reset. Reset your ship. It doesn't do time tokens, but it will re-enable O'Brien, Worf, Odo, whatever else is disabled. Cool. Now, admirals. There's only a couple of admirals in DS9 that we see. We've seen Ross already on the Defiant. The other couple that turn up are Nechayev and Leighton. Now, Leighton is amazing. So Leighton is a +2 skill 4-point admiral with a talent slot. That's nice. And of course makes Ben Sisko Captain School 9. Now, the fleet action is pick a ship and put 2 time tokens on that on Leighton. That ship fires last. Completely last. So doesn't matter what, they will fire absolutely last. Very good. Just absolutely brilliant. So he is an amazing admiral to bring. He just allows you to control who fires and when they fire. Useful if you've got, you know, well, if you've just got someone you don't particularly want to fire, you've got a chance to destroy them before they get to shoot. And you can do it every other round. No problem there. So he also gives us a talent slot, but let's look at tech. So we're looking for a tech that disables. Not disable. Disable. and then lock in just Federation. So that's a Vulcan ship. Hess is interesting. After you move, okay, little point here. After you move, requires you to move. If the station does a 0-speed maneuver, it does not count as moving, and therefore you cannot trigger after you move abilities. You do have to actually have the ship move forwards or sideways. Even the rotations don't count as moving because you are standing, you're still on the same spot. So that one will require you moving, so maybe not. Unimatrix shielding, 5 points for 2 extra shields, never bad. And against a Borg ship, you can disable the shields to cancel dice. So, I mean, if you know you're facing the Borg and you want to bring Deep Space Nine, I don't know why you would, but you could. Unimatrix is a brilliant one because you disable 2 shields to get bonus defense dice. Now you're rolling 3 defense dice potentially. You can stop them. You can roll them, make them roll less dice, and they can't spend their tokens. And then when they do get some damage on you, you disable 2 more shields to cancel damage results. You're going to take almost no damage from a Borg ship. That's quite nice, but again, not always what you want. Bioneural, again, interesting, but it's reroll all the dice, so usually not worth it because it's just it's a complete reroll, but then it's locked. So you're hoping for a better roll. We could do. I'm trying not to do other ones that are action, sort of like the ones that say when this happens, disable. Holocom is interesting. I mean, the EMH is always fun because we could bring the EMH along, and he allows us to re-enable a crew upgrade without having to worry about the impurity analysis. So that would enable you to do Julian every round and EMH every other round. And while there's no EMH on board DS9 officially, obviously they do tests of the emergency medical hologram there when Zimmerman comes to the station to try to interview Bashir for his possible role as the long range sort of like 2nd edition. Of course, then it all comes out that he's actually genetically modified and all of that good stuff happens. So we could do an EMH, stretching it a little bit, but it is still, you know, there is definitely an EMH on board DS9 at some point, and more than one ship from the Federation will have docked to Deep Space Nine carrying an EMH. Any Nova classes or Nebula classes, you know, even the Enterprise E during the later parts of the war, if it comes to Deep Space Nine, that's got the EMH. But tactical prototype. Disable it to perform an action bar action while you've got an Orcs power token. But you can't do 3 actions. Cloaking device would be funny. You can't sensor echo. But if you were to cloak, your agility would be replaced with 4. Because that's a base rule of cloaking. But of course you would have no shields, you wouldn't be able to sensor echo, it'd just be an invisible space station. Funny to try, but probably not what we want to do. Now, nav station is interesting, but again, you can't perform the evade action, which is annoying because after you perform a green maneuver is a stationary maneuver. Oh, that's just disabled after you don't move to get an evade. But because it's an evade, you can't have it. Again, impulse thruster you can't do because it requires you doing additional maneuvers. Com station allows you to swap captains, allows you to change captain skill from yours to whatever a friendly ship has got, and it adds a crew slot. Potential, but it's a very expensive way of getting a crew slot on board the ship. Again, there's the proper EMH. We could go for deuterium tank if we really wanted to do a red maneuver, allowing you to disable it to do it as a white. Now, close range scan. Now that is allowed when you perform the scan action. Disable the shields and have a 2nd scan token. Just double scan. It's not bad. And if you don't have the space for a science officer for action double scan, it works quite well. Tractor beam when you disable. I mean, Genesis effect's always funny, but again, probably not exactly era specific and locked in. Now, bioneural circuitry. Okay, not very appropriate, because DS9 doesn't have binaural circuitry, but it would be fun because it allows you to, after you execute a maneuver, and that does count as even stationary, you have still executed your maneuver, which is to remain still. It's on your maneuver dial. and that allows you to disable it to get an action bar action as a free action. And then with Miles O'Brien, Julian Bashir, you could do that every single round. So that's a way of getting DS9 to do double actions every round. You know, an action bar action and then a normal action, either Odo or Leighton. And you could even then do action bar action with an Aux Power token for 3 time tokens. Tractor emitters. Now, tractor emitters is an interesting one. It adds tractor to the action bar. Now, I have mentioned tractor and transporter before. They are a pair of new actions that have been brought in the latest packs. There will be a rules extra coming fairly soon, explaining both of those new rules and how they work. Navigational deflector. Whenever you would suffer damage from an obstacle or a minefield, disable the card, roll defense dice, and add an evade result. Now, it's not a token, that's just an evade result, so that's fine. Secondary impulse reactor, tractor beam. Okay, so there's not an awful lot. I'm kind of liking the EMH. And then we can drop computer analysis, because that allows us to. We could have used Worf and Odo, for example, in the same round, and then next round we can re-enable both Odo and Worf with both of them. But shit, now O'Brien is now used to re-enable weapon upgrade. So this is where we go weapons. Now, this already comes with a 5 dice 360 arc. We could very easily just put type 10 phasers on this and be done with it, giving us 6 dice at range 1 to 2, 360 with some passive rerolls. And there's nothing to stop us doing that, actually. But what I might suggest, what I might do, is we could load this up. We could go with an arsenal, because DS9 very much does get an arsenal of war gear, and if anything's got the space for a full arsenal, it's Deep Space Nine. Integrated phaser banks on all levels, 5,000 photon torpedoes, you know, all the stuff they bluffed the Cardassians with in Emissary, in Way of the Warrior, they really have. You know, it took them a year or so to get everything in place, but it's definitely working. So now we could go type 10 and put obviously the double slot, because it requires 2 slots. And this means when we fire primary weapon at 360 arc, obviously, we get 6 dice with a 2 blank reroll. That's definitely not bad. I mean, that 6 dice 360 is a Borg ship, and this is on a much bigger base than a Borg ship. So you think range 1 to 2 is a bit limiting. This is a huge base ship, trust me. Range 1 to 2 covers quite a lot of area. Also, if the enemy ship is on your base, that still counts as range 1. You can still fire at them. Your giant base is actually so giant, obviously, if an enemy ship or even a friendly ship lands on your base, there's no reversing, there's no stopping, losing action, losing maneuver, nothing. They just land on your base and can do normally. They can fire at you, you can fire at them, you're both at range 1. The only thing you would worry about is if you crashed into either another giant ship, so another space station, or an oversized Borg cube, or obviously an obstacle. So if you suffer an obstacle, you still suffer obstacle damage, but you wouldn't reverse back over anything you would normally reverse over. Planet, again, reverse back over it, and all the normal things apply for the obstacles. But yeah, for ships, they can fly into and out of and around the pylons with no problem. So it works quite nicely. I mean, if you want to, there is even an abandoned space station version of DS9, sort of MPOC Nor style, which you can throw on with an independent captain and Life of Piracy. Now deploy it in the centre of the board. And range 1 to 2 at that point covers pretty much the whole board. So we've got some talent slots and a weapon slot still. The weapon slot, we could go some torpedoes. Let's go for some torpedoes. Quantums would be so much fun here, but the ship doesn't get quantums during the series, so we're going to go photons. Now, the thing about photon torpedoes is, if we pick ones that are based on the weapon value, we're going to not get the full effect, because we still can't do double action on this thing. And while you'd get 6 dice for 2 points, unless you've got the battle stations and the target lock in the same round, you're not going to get the full effect. So it's still actually, I think, better putting on some fixed dice torpedoes and using them. Now, we could use the high yields, but obviously if we do that, then we don't have anything to use O'Brien with, and we might want to change out O'Brien. So we could look for some disabled torpedoes. But at that point there, fundamentally, what we're doing is we're looking for what is it? We're looking for basically 5 dice torpedo. So we're spending 5 points on the same number of attack dice, just at range 3. So that might not be worth it. What we might want to do is, for example, go tactical station, which adds another weapon slot and +1 attack dice for a disable. So we can disable that for bonus dice to give us 7 at 360, and then O'Brien can re-enable it. So we do that every single round with Bashir and EMH and all that sort of stuff. So 7 dice, not bad. And now, weapons. Let's go upwards and we'll have a look. So, our phaser, again, no, we don't need it. Our particle beams, dorsal, we don't need it, we've already got it. We can't do type 8 because our weapon value is much higher than 3. Experimental torpedo bay would be funny, but again, it's only really used to hide something expensive. Again, torpedo bay, but that would just be racking more points upon more points upon more points, and we'd require a photon torpedo. The only one that'd be worth bringing is the high yield photon torpedoes, which means that between torpedo bay and arsenal, we could fire them, I think, 3 turns on the trot. However, O'Brien wouldn't be useful at that point, at which point we would have to swap out. Well, we would use the O'Brien for a tactical, so we could do torpedo bay and then high yields. That might be an idea, actually. As you can see, I do every single time. I have no plan with these. I literally build as the thoughts come to me. So you're seeing my train of thought. And every time I think about doing this, I come up with a different idea. So we do high yields. So yes, we put 3 time tokens on this card. When placing the time tokens on the photon torpedoes, if there's no time tokens on torpedo bay, we put them all on there. So at which point you put 3 time tokens on that. And one of them actually goes on arsenal. At which point we put 2 on there, 1 on arsenal. High yields fire. Then next round, torpedo bay goes down to 1. That's empty. You fire the high yields. That's got 2. Arsenal takes 1. Both of them reload. So you can fire them twice in a row. You can basically fire them every 2 turns and then have a turn recharge. 2 turns, turn recharge. That's not bad. I mean, the game's not going to last that long. You probably get 2 shots with them. But given the fact that you can still use tactical station for a 7 dice shot at range 3 with a battle station to crit conversion, that's not bad. 7 dice 360, 7 dice at range 3. That's certainly a punch that no one's going to really, no one's going to go, oh, it's nothing. And finally, some talents. Now, we could do more than meets the eye. Being very Bajoran for Cisco just gets a 1-time free scan token. Never bad. 1 point. It's never bad. Explore strange new worlds. Only matters if we're near obstacles. Now we could go. Now we can't do tactical superiority commander, even though it says Captain Skill of 8+, because Cisco is not a native 8. Doesn't work. Which is a shame because there's nothing that's going to have more dice than us unless you're bringing a Sovereign or a Prometheus. Inspiring, however, at range 1, that's an awfully long way. And that's a really nice way of getting his sort of other cards version of taking Orcs power tokens off. A friendly ship each round removes an Orcs power token. That's nice. It's just a range 1 bubble. And that covers the whole ship base and out to range 1 from a giant ship. So that's quite nice. Red alert, spend a battle stations token. You can discard this. Basically, it works like a 1-shot battle hardened. Tactical alert, I just spend the battle stations token for re-rolling attack or defense dice. Again, legacy of the name is always an option, but again, I don't want to stick. That's best on an Enterprise. To boldly go is a potential. How many unique upgrades have we got? So Cisco, Leighton, Inspiring, Odo 4, Worf 5, Miles 6, Julian 7, and every time we remove an Orcs power token, we get a free token. Which is interesting, but we'd have to pick up Orcs power tokens, which we don't get an awful lot of on a giant ship that doesn't move very well. Now, fleet coordination only really matters if we've got abilities that target friendly ships. But this is a brilliant ship for fleet coordination. If you've got lots of stuff that says target friendly ship at range 2 or 1 to 2, fleet coordination pushes it out to range 3. And range 3 from Deep Space Nine is 3/4 of the board. That's if you're touching your board edge. Now, Wing Leader, again, possibility. It hands out friendly re-rolling the battle stations every time they attack or defend when they're within range 1 of you. And your range 1 is huge. Let's put that on as for now. Let's have a look. We could go, attack pattern Omega, always funny to hand out a warp core breach. We could go evasive pattern, no, we can't do evasive pattern Delta. We could go for battle plan. Now, battle plan is when you attack, if the target ship is within range 1 of you and within range 1 of another friendly ship, you add a battle station result. Which is, it's nice, but it does require you all being close together and you having a way to convert the battle station. That's not bad, but I think I prefer the handing out rerolls. So this has already got, this is a very offensive ship with the Type 10, the high yields, the torque bay, the arsenal, you know, all of that. It's also quite defensive with its ship ability, Cisco and Worf. O'Brien keeps the tactical station ticking over for a passive bonus 1 dice. EMH keeps those things going. Odo's the wild card, allowing you to disable stuff on enemy ships, but also borrow their actions if you really want to. And then you've got Wing Commander and Inspiring to enable you to throw stuff out and, you know, help out your friends. Ambassadors, there's only one ambassador that goes here, which is, of course, Lortana Troy. As I said in my ambassador video, there are times and places for ambassadors. Don't think this is the time. Also, at the start of the game, you target an opposing captain or crew upgrade on the target ship. Whenever you move within range 1 of them, you disable your captain and the targeted card on their ship. So you really don't want to have an important, impressive captain because it disables your own captain. And also, it requires you moving within range 1. So obviously, DS9 can't, well, is probably not going to move very much at all. So we don't want to bring her. So this is the entire thing, and also 98 points, so a very nearly 100-point ship. Yeah, Deep Space Nine is expensive. So going through, we've got Deep Space Nine. Every time you defend, you can roll bonus dice for disabling your shields. Scissor gives you a bonus dice again if you're inside multiple forward firing arcs. And when he suffers damage, he gets bonus permanent captain skill. Does cap rule of 3, but it'll take him up to a 10 thanks to Leighton. Leighton's good for attack control, for stopping enemy ships from firing at you, or at least in the order they want to. DWR is just a good upgrade for anything in the Dominion War, and it gives it a bonus shield and also a bonus slot. You've got Wing Leader and Inspiring for helping out friendly ships with rerolls, attacking and defending, and Orcs power token removal. You've got Odo for disabling enemy upgrades and copying crew actions if they've got something tasty. EMH to keep the crew ticking over. You've got an Arsenal with a tactical station, torpedo bay, and high yields for a massive double tap, turn reload, double tap, turn reload, torpedo shot. Type 10 takes up your 360 firing to 6 dice. You've also got Worf to lean into the defensive, Julian Bashir to keep Worf or whatever you need ticking over, and Miles O'Brien keeps the tactical station ticking over. So you've got 3 crew that disable themselves, 2 ways to re-enable them. You're not going to be able to have everything all the time, but you should be able to have enough stuff going each turn for you to have some options. So that's my Deep Space Nine. As I say every single time, you're probably getting sick of me saying it, this is not the only way to build it. You can build this any way you like. There are obviously certain restrictions on the oversized ships that you can't do. Like I said, nothing that adds, nothing that adds agility in terms of upgrades, nothing that adds evade tokens, nothing that adds additional maneuvers. So there's stuff that this thing can't do, but it counteracts that with being an enormous base ship with an enormous stat line, an enormous base, and having lots and lots of cool bits. You know, it's also dual faction fed Bajoran. So, and I'll think about this, I am considering doing a pure Bajoran build of this when the Bajorans take over in the Circle, or when the Bajorans are technically in control of it before the Dominion take over, when the Federation retreats. And you just do this as a pure Bajoran ship with Bajoran captains, crew, admiral, all that sort of stuff. And it has potential. It is a Bajoran ship, it has the dual faction, so all of those cards that say if equipped to a Bajoran ship with a Bajoran captain work on Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine also has one other version. There are one model, but there comes with 4 ship cards in the various packs. The original Gen Con comes with the Don't Disable Torpedoes and the Abandoned Nor-Orbital Space Station, which is independent, double crew, double weapon, useful for making MPOC Nor or just a generic space station. Then this one comes also with Terok Nor, the Dominion version. Same stat line, only its ability allows you to fire at range 1 to 3 360 with 4 dice. So you lose a dice but gain a range band with prime weapon. Nice. And it comes with double crew, double weapon, double tech. But it is just pure Dominion, so it loses the Federation Bajor and it goes to pure Dominion. But it is certainly a potent ship to consider using if you're using the Dominion. So I've rambled on now for enough time. That's my ship. Hope you like it. If you've got any ideas, any cards you think, you know, could be done better, you should think I should have done the other version of Deep Space Nine, drop it in the comments, drop me a message, and I will have a go at doing that. Again, if you like the video, please just hit that like button, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do, whatever you do, it really, really helps me out. It just lets me know that I'm doing content that people want to see. I'm noticing some of the videos are getting higher views recently, especially some of the rankums. I will get back to the rankums as soon as I can get my TTS working again. It's having a bit of a funny 5 minutes at the moment. Until then, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.